Hey, it's Cate Stillman with Yogahealer.com, and we're back with these powers of awakening your dream. So often when I talk to people about their dreams, they're actually already coming from a place of having diminished their own dreams. Sometimes this comes from the way we're parented, sometimes it comes from the way we're educated or whatnot, that it's like, oh, that's out of your reach, right? And so what we can do within ourselves is actually expect less of ourselves. So in video 1, we talked about the 7 capacities, and I started to awaken these power centers, and you, just through talking about it, just through pointing your attention center by center up through your physiology. And we talked a lot about like getting a clear picture on where we're at with these 7 capacities. For someone who's really embodied and has like perfect 10 scores, not that I believe in perfection, but has expansive 10 scores in each of these 7 competencies, what happens is that all of a sudden there's an awareness of a dream, and there's a sense of like, that's the way I'm going. And there's really no inhibition of flow. And there's so much involved here, right? So when I look at what's up for the typical person who I interact with, that tribe leader at Yogahealer, there's often a sense of when people start with us, there's a sense of not really being in control of time, of their own time. There's a sense of overwhelm, that they're out of sync with time, that they wake up in the morning and what they've got to do that day is not in sync with who they are and what they actually want to do. There can also be a sense of that they're not in flow, that they have to do things and they don't want to do them, and they can't actually source their day from their own natural biorhythms, right? And so these things really start to short circuit their capacities. The other things that really arise is that people don't actually own their space environment, their physical external space, as well as their internal physiological space. It's interesting, the word sukha in Ayurveda comes up, and it's a yogic term as well. You'll find it in the Yoga Sutras. And sukha means clean, clear space, and it's referring to an inner vibrational space in the yogic teachings. But it's amplified by an outer vibrational space that's also clear, that's also clean, that is also filled with consciousness, filled with the vibration that the person wants to experience. So there's these skills, there's capacities, and if we don't have an external space that is actually amplifying and enabling who we want to become, to be supported, enabling the dream, the vision, the future self to come, to get grounded in reality, then it's 10 times harder, and I'd actually say it's actually impossible to realize certain dreams that we may have. If we look at people that are just really unclear about, like, I'm not really certain like what my dharma is. I don't really know in this next phase of my life what I should be doing. I just feel like things are out of sync, or I just actually feel cloudy and unclear, and I make a decision and then I change my mind, and then I make another decision and I change my mind, and I feel like I never actually get anywhere. Right? This is another like very, very big issue of our time. And this is something too, when I look at it, it's like, okay, there's skills, there's capacities, there's powers, there's competencies that we can work on. We can actually start to evolve in ourselves. And as we do, we start to intuit our dreams much more fluidly, and we actually have the capacities then to step into our dreams and live a much, much bigger life. So in today's video, what you're going to get is a little bit of an embellishment on those 7 capacities applied to the 5 elements. That's going to be a teaching I give after I share a little bit about some stories that just people that have worked with me, so that have become my inner circle over time, because they've applied these teachings in action, and they're just going to explain to you what's happened in their lives, in their relationships, in their time management, in their flow, in their experience of their physical body and their physical biological evolution. So you're going to hear directly from the peeps on this one, and then we'll get into these 5 elements and the 5 competencies that come when we master the elements, when we master our space, when we master our time, when we master our relationship to dharma, when we become masters of flow, and when we master our body, right? When we become masters within our physiological experience. And so all of that is in today's video. Hi, I'm here with Donna Skoglund, who it's just so fun to see you and
recall our past. But, the whole premise of these little short videos is that a lot of people sense that these skills that I'm teaching, it's like they just work for me and I'm so special and different. And, I totally crack up because I was a B student. I'm like, there's, I'm like, I'm not really that. You were. I would have totally pinned you for an A student.
No way. I was not academic at all.
So when it comes to these skills, these 5-element skills, these awake living skills, how have, just challenges that you've had in the past with space, with time, with dharma, with flow, can you just talk about a little bit your past and learnings?
Yeah. I was thinking about this, and I was kind of thinking of like where to start, because it's really been such a huge transformation. Before I came into the tribe, I was just a stressed out, chaotic mom, and trying to build my yoga business and feeling really frustrated with finding the time to do what I really wanted to, and feeling really torn between like needing to, do my household duties, but also really wanting to work on my business, and not having good time management skills at all, and just never feeling accomplished or productive, and having just these to-do lists that would spill over into the next day and the next day and the next day. And so, it's been everything from, and then once I started, coming into the tribe and taking the courses, I just started to, first, it was more about the body habits and understanding Ayurveda, and really like taking better care of myself in a way that I never had before. And that's really what that opened me up to feeling like I was more in charge of my life, because that was the big thing for me. I felt like I was not in the driver's seat of my life. I kind of felt like I didn't feel like this life was my own. And I would kind of ask myself, like, how did I get here? This is not what I wanted. This is not what I thought my life would be like. I thought I would, be successful and thriving and happy and doing what I love, but I just felt frustrated and unhappy every day. So, yeah, so then I really woke up to the fact that I feel really in charge of my life, and that I can do what I want, and I can create the lifestyle that I want. And then just getting the tools of really clarifying what I wanted, and starting to really write down goals and get clear on my vision, and then have the time management skills of using things like the 12-week year and all the other different strategies of being able to actually feel like I was being productive, and I was not like running around like a chicken with my head cut off, which is what I felt like before. And always another thing was my space. Like, I have 2 little boys, and just feeling frustrated with my living space and hating clutter, but feeling like I could not avoid it unless I wanted to spend 24/7 cleaning, which I definitely didn't want to do. So it's been amazing, like, to be able to live with 3 boys, husband, one of them. I feel like, yeah, my space feels good. It feels tidy. It feels, it's really more in alignment with, how I want to feel when I'm working, because I work from home. And, ever since I started with you, my business has been growing by at least 30% every year.
Damn.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so exciting, because I really feel like I've overcome so many things, of just whether it's mental barriers or just not knowing how to manage my time and my space and my body, to really feel like I just love the word empowered, and it's something that I use a lot, and I feel really empowered and really in charge.
Yeah. And I've heard from other people in the community that they see you as a very successful leader. So just to reflect that back, I keep hearing how Donna's really figured out this time thing, and I'm learning time management from Donna. So it's really to me, when I hear that, I'm like, yeah, it's
that has just been a pretty recent development, and that was something that I have struggled with, and my husband would always be like, you have the worst time management skills.
Awesome. Well, I'm so glad to hear that you've had a morph. And when you look at the trajectory of where you're going now, and one of the things that I'm really aware of in myself and my own trajectory is that I take my dreams very seriously now, and they're much more accessible than they used to be. They used to seem out of reach, and I kind of would actually suppress them. So I'd love to hear from you what your relationship to your dreams and your potential is now.
Oh yeah, I definitely feel the same way, that I feel like, oh yeah, I can easily see myself doubling my business and maybe even tripling it, and even beyond that, like that I can actually map that out and just break it down into, and now I know exactly how, like what it takes. That's just step-by-step process of following the plan and being able to do those things that I really want to do and those dreams that I have and manifest them. So I absolutely agree with that. Like allowing myself to dream bigger and actually have the confidence to know that I can get there. And a lot of it also has been being able to reach out for support. And that's a big thing that I've learned and that I'm actually doing. I know how to whether it's like community support or outside, outsourcing, which is huge. And that I think really enables that. So getting out of, not being the bottleneck and getting out of your own way and allowing for that expansion to happen.
And are you starting to experience more flow with that as you're realizing where you should be and act and do, and where, oh, this isn't mine, this is someone, they can pass this off? Or
hopefully, like what I need to be doing and what I don't need to be doing. And it feels so good to be able to hand that stuff off. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. And so that I really can just love what I do, and what I do is the things that I can get into that flow state and be so absorbed where, time disappears, but I know everything's taken care of and I can really work on those creative projects that excite me.
Awesome. So what is it, the experience for you of having someone like me believe in your dreams?
It feels really supported, and it feels like I just have this, I just keep using the word support. It just feels like a really solid support system, and something that you can rest back into and not feel like you have to figure it out all on your own, and being able to have a mentor and a guide that's, a role model that you can, and to be able to have such that close connection with you, and you're very transparent and open and sharing, and you really help all of us come up and reach our potential, which is, you can't really do it without that guidance.
Or at least it's not that much fun.
No. Yeah, yes, you can. There's a lot out there, but it's like having to sift through it and figure it out on your own. It takes much longer, so it's much quicker when you just have it all laid out and you just trust that this works and to use that.
Well, thanks so much for sharing your story. I'm sure a lot of people are like, oh, okay, so this is maybe possible for me. Any closing words of advice for people that might not even believe in their own dream, or might be where you were at, where it's like the dream might even be hard to reach because there's so much scattered relationship to time and space?
Trust the process and the system that works. It works when you do it, and to just follow it and not try to, don't doubt it, don't second guess it, and just try it, do it, apply it, and see for yourself. It really does work. So learn from those that have, achieved what you want, and really that's I think that's, everything that I've done with you, I've really just been like, okay, that's what Cate says, I'm doing it.
Whether I want to or not.
Yeah. It's like that doesn't even, I don't even really think about whether I want, I just do it. And I think that's really what's enabled me to grow as fast as I have, which has been crazy, just amazing growth that I've had.
So I'm curious too. I know I'm like in closing, but what does your husband think of? You've had.
He doubted it from the very beginning. He was like, "All right, you can do this," but he totally did not think it would work with everything that I've done, and he's always surprised. He's like, "Okay, yeah, I guess it does. I guess what you want to do. It's a viable thing." So and this is. For him, I hope that because I would love for him to do that too. And that's something that I want to inspire others to really be able to embrace their own dreams and realize that they are possible. Because I think that's such a barrier. It's like all these self-limiting beliefs of I'm too old, or that's not going to be able to sustain me. And it's just sad. I think it's really sad when you don't allow, I mean, this is your life. This is your life. I mean, don't you want to live knowing that you followed your own path and your own dreams, and that you really did what you decided you wanted to do, and not kind of what the family business or society or any, the people that you're around decided what you should do.
Yeah.
So
yeah, awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your, I hate the word studentship now. I'm kind of more into like mentorship or whatever the relationship is that we have. Thanks for showing up wholeheartedly and leading the way for others.
Thank you. I couldn't have done it without you and stepped into this leadership role, because that was definitely not me before. So, yeah.
All right. I'm here with Grace Edison, who has had a lot of transformation in the community. Many of you who are podcast listeners have heard Nearful, but many of you haven't heard the podcast or Grace on the podcast. So, Grace, can you just tell people, in terms of when you look back at your evolution from working with me and within the courses, like what's happened with your space, your time, your dharma, your flow, your body?
Well, so it started with my body for sure. Absolutely. And I think that had to happen because I didn't actually have the energy, to do any of the other work. So I went through Body Thrive twice before I really got to a place where I could even start looking at some of the other areas of my life. I was known to live in a state of chaos and own that and be like, I love living in a state of chaos. And so I now do not live in a state of chaos. In fact, people come into my house and say like, whoa, like what happened here? And, which is really exciting. Like I don't know that I ever thought it would get to that point. And it seemed like a natural evolution where when the inner space cleaned up and started to get more aligned and things became clear, then I wanted to keep going. It was like, okay, now what? The inner space feels really clear. The outer space also then wanted to be clear too. It was just what was naturally showing up next. So I remember last summer going through Awake Living and going through the magical art of and tackling my space, and I had to come over and help me because I felt like I needed support. And I have a picture of what the living room looked like when we took all the clothes out, and I just sat and cried. I just sat and cried and thought I was trying to fill a void. I was so sick, really, and living with the pretty serious disease. And instead of actually changing my habits so that my body felt better and that I had, I could actually live in integrity, I was spending my money on buying clothes to try and mask or cover up what was going on inside. And it was like it all came together at that point. And I could see why my money was so deeply affected, right? Like why my financial situation was a mess. And I could see it in front of me. Like it was crystallized. It was in physical form sitting in front of me on my floor. And I just sat with it. And she knew too, because this friend of mine also is my housekeeper. Like she comes in twice a month and cleans and helps me clean my house. And she knew what was going on because she could see it. And she wanted, so she just held the space, right? As we say, the yogis, she held the space. She just held a container for me to come to some pretty heavy duty realizations. I wanted to play music the whole time. And she kept saying, just turn the music off, Grace. You need to just be with this, dude.
So now your space, like people walk into your space and they're like, whoa, you're not living and you're not the same you. And so what's happened too with money and what's happened with your time and how's that shifted?
Well, I used to be someone who would not make it to appointments and I think you remember this when I first started working for you, like missing things, just not not being on calls or not being at a meeting or not missing a strategy session. And I didn't have a sweet clue how to use a calendar and how to like I couldn't, there was so much fog. So to jump back for a second, the financial piece came, there was clarity there in how I was using my money and what I was using it for. And not only do I not spend money on weird shit anymore, but my income's increased, immensely, because I know what's coming in, I know what's going out, and then this is where the time piece comes in. My time is so aligned. Like I rocked three jobs today, essentially. Like I worked for you and rocked it. I came to my yoga studio and rocked it. And then what was the third thing that I did? Oh, I rocked my own business. Like I talked to my own clients. I talked to your clients. I talked to my clients, and I came in and did some work at my studio. And it's 3:00 and I'm headed home.
And you got 2 kids, and it's like all in flow.
All in flow. People actually say to me often, like, how do you do all the things that you do? And I'm like, well, I am we bend time. I compress time. I've learned from you, like, there are things that sit on top of other things. Like I've got to do the self-care practices. They sit on top of work, right?
Yeah.
So that has to get done first. So the time piece, the other day I make it a game. The other day I had to get a whole bunch of laundry folded, and I had a busy day, full calendar. And I set a timer for 5 minutes and said, all right, Grace, how much laundry can you fold in 5 minutes? And it was so fun, and I folded it all.
Yeah. So lastly, like, what's happening in terms of your dream capacity? You've really painted this picture of someone who had a lot of physical issues, had disease, had a lot of just excess, weight, excess in your house, and now to someone who is making good money, is living in a body that you love and respect, and is experiencing flow, is experiencing being able to bend time. Like, what's happening in terms of your own dreams and believing in your own dreams and stepping into your own dreams?
Oh man, you're hitting me with the heavy. Like I promised myself I wouldn't cry this time. But it's like, it's unbelievable. Like the level of confidence that I now have, like, I don't even know if confidence is the right word. Like the belief that I have that, like, I can friggin' do anything. Like if I can get those things in order, what it shows me is that limitless possibility, and that I am the kind of person who can do whatever the heck I want to do. When I set out to do something, it gets done. I have now built the trust back in myself.
Yeah,
that when
it's trust.
Do something,
yeah,
I'm going to complete it. I'm going to accomplish it. I thought I was a procrastinator. Like I remember going for therapy before and being like, I am such a procrastinator. And it wasn't really the issue. It was like a lack of structure, a lack of belief, a lack of health and alignment. And now procrastination's not a thing, and I didn't have to work on it.
Yeah.
It's like I want to complete those things. I want to live in a clean space. I want to take care of my body. I want to show up for myself and others. I want to make change. And now I feel like I have the energy to show up and do that. I have never been more comfortable being myself ever in my whole life. And I am an out there person. I am loud. I am in people's faces, and I'm just okay with it. Right? Like I'm owning it. I'm owning my body and my space and my dharma, and it's not like it's all different. It's all the same.
Yeah. It's integrity. That's integrity. Okay, honey pie, I'm so excited to see you next week.
Yeah, me too. I can't wait. I've missed you. I feel like I haven't talked to you since we were in Mexico.
I know. It's been forever. Mwah.
Mwah. Bye.
Bye.
So with this part of the video comes the second worksheet, and I want you to, again, to evaluate yourself. We all have this capacity of Maya Mala, and it's a third eye capacity where we have the ability to measure, to evaluate, right? And it can turn into a bad thing. We can be very self-judgmental over time and turn it into this really negative thing. Or we can actually use the capacity to measure to see what we need to develop next. So to measure of like what we can leverage, because it's a capacity that's already within our ownership, right? It's within our empowerment. And then there's capacities that we haven't yet developed. And we talked a lot about that in video 1, right? So you've got that list between your 7 chakras and your 7 capacities and where you're at. So in the second worksheet now, we're going to look at the 5 elements, and we're going to look at these as really core competencies. Like, how are you competent within owning and having mastery over this element? So the first element is space. And what I have found over time is that as my desires and my dreams have up-leveled, and I've experienced this quite a bit through setting income targets, through setting leadership targets, through setting targets in terms of my lifestyle, targets in terms of my body, like what I want, what I want to experience of my body, targets in terms of like digestion even. What happens is that we need to actually morph space to hold ourselves at a higher vibration. And you've all experienced this, like, when you've maybe gone on vacation or stayed at a place that was of a very lower vibrational level, that was like not as nice as your home environment. You know what I mean? Like a crappy hotel, and you like spent some time in there, and all of a sudden you're like eating crappier foods, and you're even like your speech may actually regress, and you might find yourself having thoughts that are really like just sort of negative, and all of a sudden you're like, what is happening here? Well, your outer space is obviously influencing who you are. So you can actually develop your outer space to amplify who you want to become next. When you have a dream, right, and you have a vision of who you want to become next, now you've got to do everything in your power to support that dream into becoming, to support the unmanifest into becoming manifest. This is how evolution works. So there's things that you can do to actually design your space, right, to actually filter through. Is everything in my space actually elevating my consciousness? Is it enabling the dream to become more possible? Is it reminding me, right, like bringing back into my mind, is it reminding me of what is going to happen next, of who I am becoming, of my potential? And this takes some mastery, and soon we're actually able to morph space and bend space. I'm going to talk way more about that in video 3 and what's happened for me in this arena, because it's actually blowing my mind and exceeding my dreams, exceeding my targets. There are a few principles with this, and I just want you to use these principles to help you evaluate where you're at in terms of space. Like, one thing is, like, does everything you own, does it have a right place? One place for everything and everything in its place. Right? Does your space elevate and amplify who you are becoming, who you want to be next, who you are evolving into? Are you using your space to embed the habits and the skills that you want? So you can use those 3 questions as a way of judging, like on a scale of 1 to 10, mastery is 10, neophyte is 1, and then there's everything in between. This next elemental competency is time. How do you use time? Are you a master of your own time? Are you living your ideal calendar? Are you using time blocking? Are you planning in ways that you're using daily, weekly, quarterly, and annually, and even multiple annual ways of organizing your dreams into the field of time? Are you structuring your time to realize your dreams and enable your flow? This is really the second place where you want to give yourself an evaluation of, like, what is your relationship to time? If, one, you don't feel in control of your time, if you often find yourself like wanting to do something else while you're doing another thing, right, then these are ways of saying, like, okay, maybe I'm lower on that score of 1 to 10. If you find you're bending time, or you're ending up with like vast expanses of free time where you're in a very much relaxed flow with time, and you're getting a lot done, and you're hitting your goals, your targets, your dharma on time. If people are asking you, like, how do you get so much done and yet you seem so relaxed? These are ways to know that you're mastering time, and, like, right on, you give yourself a high score in that category of time. The next competency relates to dharma. And if we actually look at the 2 that we've covered before, so we've covered space, we've covered time. Space is the element ether. Time is the element air. You actually don't get air movement. You don't get movement unless you have the measurement of time. Right? So dharma, it relates to fire element, where able to have clear vision, what we talked about in the first video as the connection of the crown chakra, the connection of the sixth chakra, of those powers, right? The power to actually attune and to be a conduit, and then to take that attunement and to get clear on vision and put vision into action, direct the vision into reality. And this has so much to do with living the dream, right? So we have this life, this waking life, and we have these dreams of what we want to become next. And how well are we to actually to realizing, to making real the dream? And in my experience, which I'm going to get into much more in the next video, I tell you a little bit about how actually when you're doing this, life goes way beyond your dreams. What happens is way outside of what you ever thought was possible for yourself. And that's really, to me, like, that should get your, that should get you sparkling on the inside. So with Dharma, the competencies around this are like, do you know your native genius? Do you know what you're really good at? Do you spend time there? Is that where you spend the majority of your time? Is what you are really good at, what you in your own unique capacity as a unique human being, you are just really the best at? Are you spending the majority of your time there, right? Is your day-to-day flow based on that? Do you own your past? Do you own your past experience and use that, like all that which is behind you, as a launching pad for your future, right? For realizing the dreams of your future. So you're not disconnected from your past. There's not subconscious, like weird lurky places, shadows in your past. But you've uncovered, you've done this work. You own who you are. You own who you've been. You see where you're going. And you use this as the launching pad to make that all happen. Do you hit your targets when you set your goals, right? This is a big thing. I find a lot of people have shied away from goals, and they actually poo-poo on goals of like, oh, goals, I'm not, I just want to experience more flow. And usually this comes from having set goals in the past that they haven't hit. And there's different skills, there's different competencies with mastering this relationship with fire, this relationship with time and space, to actually be able to raise your own bar, meaning do something that you've never done, be someone you've never been, right? And to become that person on a schedule in real time, to make things happen on a schedule in real time. And this is a skill anyone can master, anyone with a desire, right? To simply be more, to do more, to live a life more on purpose, more in the realm of their own potentiality, to awaken all those 7 capacities, right? If we're willing to do that, if we're willing to step by step work through awakening our capacities, then this is possible. If you're getting a 10 in this area or a higher number in this area because you set goals and you achieve your goals. Others see you as a leader. You don't shy away from your bigger dreams, but you know that you're going to need to learn things that you don't know yet. You're going to need to develop relationships you don't have yet, but you don't shy away from that. In fact, it excites you. Your own potential, your own future excites you because you know who you will be in 6 months is a very different human being from who you are right now. This next elemental competency is the one of flow. This relates to the water element. So the last element was pretty fiery, right? Fire is hot and it's sharp and it's intense. And water, on the other hand, is cool and connecting. It's fluid, it's moist, and it's mellow. So the question here is like, within all that, right, do you experience flow? Do you experience flow and easeful living in your own day-to-day reality? Do others see you simultaneously as being alert, but also relaxed, present and yet fluid, adaptable and yet steady? I know for me, this flow thing can get kind of tricky the more you're tuned to the fire, right? It's a very dynamic pulsation of being able to up-level the two simultaneously. So when you're asking yourself about flow, like how much do you feel throughout the day you're in an attuned flow? Not like cloudy, spaced out flow where you're like flowing through things and at the end of the day you're like, I didn't get anything done. This is really, really different than that. It's at the end of the day you're like, wow, I had an amazing time. And wow, I can't believe what I was actually able to accomplish. That's the kind of flow that we're talking about here. If you feel like at the end of the day you still have a to-do list with a million things on it, then your chances are you're missing this element of flow. Or if you're just stressed out, right? If you just notice like, I got more to do than I can do, I got to do a lot of things I don't want to do. I'm not enjoying myself, right? There's all these things I'd rather be doing. I'm not in flow. Then you got to give yourself a low score. And remember, low scores are great around here because that just means like, guess what? Your life is going to get better. You're going to work on these core competencies. You're going to work on these capacities and your life's going to get a lot better. Your dreams are going to get more within reach. And first, they'll actually get clear. And then second, they'll get within reach. So give yourself a score on your flow. This last elemental competency is related to earth element, and this is this embodiment, right? Like how embodied are you? How in your body are you? Do your habits support and evolve your body into aligned, vibrant longevity? I think we all are pretty awake to that we have the capacity to live longer than humans in the past, right? And you're starting to see the real thought leaders in this area, the real body leaders in this area, setting target goals of living to 120, 140, even I've seen up to 180 years for some of the biohackers that are setting these goals that are like, for many of us are like, wow, I didn't even think it would be possible. I thought 100 was old. And you see people that are 100 and you're like, ooh, what would it be like to be 120, 180, right? And it can be really like, ooh, I wouldn't want that because we're so not attuned to what aligned, vibrant longevity is all about. So as you look at this core elemental competency around body, right, around this is the earth element in our physiology compared to things like how we bend space and time and dharma and flow. Those are all much more amorphous than the physicality of our 7 layers of tissue of our physical body, right? And you can just evaluate yourself here, like, are you lithe? Are you strong? Are you agile? Are you grounded? Are your body habits getting more refined and more specific and more automated year after year? Can you actually look back at the last 10 years and measure your evolution? Isn't it starting to compound so that you have more energy, so that you're much more utilizing better nutrients to create bodily tissue? Are your habits around sleep, around food, around digestion, around exercise, around even time for nothingness, right? Time for meditation, are those all becoming more and more automated to support awakened longevity? And that's how you want to rate yourself on the scale of 1 to 10. Where are you at? And if you're like, nope, I'm carrying extra weight, I don't exercise enough, I'm not sleeping well, I'm using too much caffeine, I'm using too much alcohol, I'm using other substances that I'm not even going to mention, I'm really just kind of not wanting to be in my body because it's an uncomfortable place, there's pain, I'm in more discomfort every year, I need to buy bigger pants every year, like whatever it is, right? You got to give yourself a lower score, which just means that there's a world of potential. And you can start to have dreams about having the body you want because it is possible. Right? And if you're a master of body, then your habits are getting better every year. You are much more aware and awake to not just your feeding time, but also your fasting time. You're noticing like blood sugar stabilization is very deep, that your ability to turn high quality nutrients into high quality bodily tissue is going through the roof. Those are all different ways to be like, yep, I'm checking off mastery. Right? I'm able to lift more, do more, move more flexible, more agile, and more strong. All right, so those are the 5 elemental competencies, and they match up with those 7 chakra capacities, right? In some different ways. We're not going to get into the whole like cross-section, intersection of those right now. I just want you to reflect on, like, what is your dream? What is your dream about the space that you live in, the spaces you want to live in? What is your dream about your time, how you want to use time in your future? What is your dream about your dharma, your life purpose? Like, what is the next version of you? What is your dream about flow, like your experience of your own day-to-day, moment-to-moment experience of connection and flow? And then what about the dreams about your body? What do you dream for your own physicality in the future? And so the call to action here is, if you want to talk about your dreams with someone in these 5 elements, go ahead and go to yogahealer.com/dream. We're not going to have this offer. This is not always going to be available. So if you want to talk to someone on the team, you can do so now. And so you'll want to go to yogahealer.com/dream, fill out the brief form that just helps you put into words the things that you're thinking, and then you'll schedule a call. And it's a really great opportunity. I only have like really the coolest people hanging out with me at Yogahealer, and they're really fun people to talk to. Very so just awake, aware, and very deep listeners. So speaking into a container of deep listenership in itself is a gift that I'm offering to you, and it'll help you hear yourself. It'll help you actually take something that's unmanifest and bring it more into the manifest. Okay, so in the next video, I'm going to tell you, I'm actually going to share my life. I'm having my friend who does a lot of video and photo shoots come by my new house. I'm going to show you my new space. I'm going to show you what it's like to experience what is beyond the dream that you've created for yourself. And I'm going to do that through my personal story. I'm going to tell you a little bit too about my own physiological evolution and in my experience of flow, how I'm using time space. I'm going to get way more into me and just hope that it inspires you to start to dream outside your box. I know for me, I suppressed my dreams for most of my life. And in my studies of Ayurveda and yoga, in my studies of career evolution, business evolution, and my studies recently more of leadership and collective evolution, what's happened is all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but really slowly over time, I've had more and more ability to perceive the dream and to make it happen and to morph into who I would need to be for that dream to become real. So that's what the next video is all about.